The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Scott Norton, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll discuss Wrestling Redzone, the road to Wrestling Dontaku, and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style, so you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Josh, we got a question here from Muzza. 100 young lions or 1 gorilla?
All right, so let me just start off and get this out of the way. So I went and got some dental work done today. Nobody fucking told me that they were going to shoot my mouth with like just tons of Novocaine. It's worn off, but like my jaw hurts so bad today. Like it's unbelievable. So like I'm going to be on the show and be talking, but probably a lot less than I normally do. And I sound weird too. So
We could have pushed off, man.
No, I'm not going to push it off. But with that being said, I know everyone thinks that a gorilla would beat up 100 dudes, but like 100 dudes should be able to beat up a fucking gorilla. Like I get it. A gorilla's super ass strong, but like it's 100 dudes. It's just
100 young lions in this situation.
100 young lions. Like they're going to be able to beat a gorilla. There'll be casualties. There'll be loss of life, loss of mobility. You know, quality of life is going to be diminished for some of them. Probably a good number of them, but
Like in the guy, it's
Hiroshima. Have you ever seen like the ants attack like a? You see like the ants attack a lotus. If you got enough of them, they just overwhelm it. That's what would happen to a gorilla.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line because the young boy says so. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, man. Well, let's jump into things so you don't have to talk too much here tonight. So this weekend we had the Wrestling Redzone in Hiroshima from Hiroshima Sun Plaza. This was April 26, 2025. So the show opened up. We had Katsuya Hiroshima defeating Daiki Nagai, extending the streak to 5-0 in singles wins over Daiki Nagai, 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Any thoughts on these young lions here?
Between the two matches on the 2 nights that we're reviewing here, I thought this was the better of the two. Obviously, singles matches tend to, endear themselves to having a good quality outing. But I thought that this showed the progression of these two guys. Obviously, Hiroshima picked up the win here. He's 5-0 against Daiki Nagai. So, you kind of wonder if Daiki Nagai's ever going to get a win against him. But typically in that Kosai, relationship, senpai, Kosai, whatever, he's probably going to graduate before he ever gets a chance at revenge. So, this might be one of those things for like way down the road.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a fun matchup there, and I love Hiroshima kind of using more of the power moves that we talked about last couple of weeks with the power slam and some of the bigger chops and strikes. So yeah, I thought both guys looked good here. Then we had the team of Hiroshi Tanahashi, Toriano, Master Wato, and Bolton Oleg and Yo defeating the TMDK team Hartley Jackson, Kosei Fujita, Robbie Eagles, Ray Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. This was a preview for the upcoming junior tag team title match happening tomorrow on Tuesday on the road to Wrestling Dontaku. Also a preview for Zack and Tanahashi that's going down this weekend at Wrestling Dontaku. So pretty much that's kind of your standard multi-man tag here, previewing those matches.
Yeah, we got, to see some of the chemistry between Zack and Tanahashi, which we know that they work really well together. But we also kind of got to see the first rumblings of these two junior teams going at it, which, I didn't think that they knocked my socks off, but I thought it was pretty good and should be a good match.
Yeah, I think the highlight of this match was the interactions between Oleg and Hartley Jackson, two beefy boys, showing off who's stronger. And, Bolton was able to hit the Bolton shake on this man, hits him with the kamikaze, gets the win over Big Jag.
Yeah, on both nights, they kept a very similar structure to these Hantai Team DK matches. And, I agree. I think that seeing Hartley Jackson and Oleg Bolton mix it up was probably the key takeaway and highlight of those matches.
Yeah. So then following that, we had Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru from the House of Torture defeating the War Dogs team of Clark Connors and Taiji Ishimori. So this is all in build to the Dog Pound Cage match. That'll be main eventing night 1 of Wrestling Dontaku this weekend. So pretty much what we've been seeing with all these matches, lots of shenanigans with the House of Torture. Towards the end, it was Kanemaru spraying the whiskey in Connor's eyes to blind him and get the roll-up upset win.
Yeah, a lot of, the wash, rinse, and repeat, what we've seen with this particular program. I think if you're invested in these teams and everything like that, then you might really be looking forward to the cage match coming up. But for me, I don't think that I've seen necessarily anything here that that indicates that we're on the path to greatness. That being said, I did feel like they turned up a smidge with these matches on this tour. When this entire program first started, things were very high in terms of the physicality, and then they sort of lulled into your standard everyday, outside interference filled type of matches with these guys. But it seems like they're starting to gear up just a little bit, getting a little bit more physical, a little bit more involved, but it's still falling firmly on the side of House of Torture style right now, where I'd like to see it fall on the line of like War Dog style, which is where the feud started in the first place.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of fallen victim to having televised shows, because I feel like they're kind of following the house show model of where they're doing the same thing in every city because they want every city to kind of see what's happening, versus when it's televised, it can be very repetitive, especially if you are leaning down more of the House of Torture route. So yeah, so hopefully, we got the blow off is coming up this weekend. We have, a couple more shows this week, and then we'll get to the cage match, and we can finally, hopefully, put this feud to rest.
Yeah, it's always tough to kind of navigate how you want to structure feuds and programs and things when you're trying to navigate like live touring versus TV versus streaming. And in 2025, different companies have different structures to this. With New Japan, they kind of fall prey to this a lot, where it's like they want to service the the territory, but they also are broadcasting on streaming on their New Japan World too. So it's kind of difficult to kind of like marry those two philosophies together.
Yeah. So following that, we had Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji defeating the team of Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura in 11 minutes 54 seconds. So double preview here. We got Shingo and Umino. They'll be facing off this weekend, and Tsuji will be defending the global title against Uemura this weekend as well at Wrestling Dontaku. And I thought it was a pretty heated match, especially with the Shingo and Umino interactions we've been kind of seeing since the monkey comment that Umino made on Twitter, trying to bring up some skeletons from Shingo's past. Shingo not taking too lightly to it, and apparently the office wasn't a big fan of it either. And we've been seeing Shingo get some receipts on Umino throughout the tour. And again, it just seems a lot more personal right now between Umino and Shingo.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. There was the video that surfaced where Shingo had laid in the chair shot to Umino, which was pretty, he let him have it for sure.
Yeah.
In these matches, I wouldn't say that I feel like he's taking liberties necessarily, but he's definitely working snug.
Super snug.
Super duper snug. So they're, I don't know, man. I don't really want to unpack the whole Umino situation again, but one thing that, I haven't heard anything about how the office felt about what he tweeted in terms of the monkey and the whole Dragon Gate situation from back in the day, but the fact that he got beat with a pumping bomber kind of tells you something.
Yeah, let's see, kind of a catching bomber. He hit the bomber and caught him in the pin towards the end there. And they kind of try to play it off like it was kind of like he caught him, but I mean, it's a pumping bomber.
Yeah, and I think had Clark Connors jumped on commentary by this point?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he came on commentary. He thought that Umino did the Hulk Hogan kick out at 3.1 sort of thing, and I kind of feel like he might even jump the gun and kicked out a little before the 3 was supposed to even happen. So I don't know. I got the weird feeling like someone wasn't happy they were doing the JOB that night,
Yeah. But I do feel like Umino showed a lot more fire in this match. And the thing with him is I feel like a lot of times in tag matches, he performs very well. And it's like, all right, I'm excited for the singles match. And the singles match comes and he craps the bed. So hopefully, we've seen these guys wrestle 3 times now. Hopefully come this weekend, the singles match will be good. But as far as this tag match, I thought there was a lot of fire here.
Yeah, and I think the interactions between Tsuji and Uemura were also very good. Those guys obviously have such history with one another. I thought it was interesting to sort of see Uemura and Shota Umino as a tag team representing Hantai, kind of 2 of the guys that we had originally had, pegged to be potential aces of the company, a couple of years back. And now we're here and sort of at a crossroads position for both of them. But I think that's a tag team that could work, honestly.
Yeah, we have a question about that from Emily in the Discord. It says, how do you feel about Shota and Yuya teaming, considering their different visions for Hantai? And would you like to see them tagging again on future Road 2 shows?
Well, the instance that it reminds me of, the first one that really kind of like comes to mind is, Tanahashi and Nakamura. They teamed together when they were very different individuals with very differing views of professional wrestling and what, Hantai at the time was going to be, and ended up winning the gold and, ended up becoming fierce rivals with one another. Same sort of thing kind of happened with Muto and Chono as well. So I think there's a little bit of precedent for that. We almost kind of speculated that something similar could have happened a few years back with Narita and Umino until, what I still to this day feel was a premature turn that didn't allow them to kind of explore what that team could have potentially been.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job setting that team up with like a lot of those interviews they did right before World Tag League. I feel like there's a lot of arc you could have done with them teaming, winning the titles, failing. Like there's so much stuff they could have done there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think them teaming together could help them, especially like I said. I feel like Umino really does kind of shine in tag matches. So yeah, I think putting them together could be great kind of character development for both of them. And so in the same faction, I think it makes a lot of sense to kind of continue to team them, kind of build that kind of friction between them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Doc asks, does Yuya clear everybody hair wise?
I mean, it's coming back.
Yeah, I know we were critical of the Mohawk previously. I mean, I still prefer the long kind of ponytail look he had before he changed.
It's better.
Yeah, but I mean, the Mohawk thing's kind of growing on me.
Oh no, the Mohawk has not grown on me at all. I still have all the exact same criticisms of Uemura in terms of character presentation and look that I always have, and until something definitive occurs to either solidify that I'm wrong and this is working from a fan perspective, or he moves past it, which is what I think will probably. I think that we'll look back and this will just be like one of his early looks, sort of thing, and I don't think this is going to last his career or anything like that. But I don't think it's working.
I did skip a match. Before that, there was El Desperado, ELP, and Taguchi defeating United Empire team Francisco Akira, Jacob Austin Young, and Templario. So that was a preview for Templario and Desperado coming up for the junior title.
There's a job to do for JAY with a UFO, and that's what happened. He did the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so that's kind of your standard multi-man there. And then jumping back in order here, we had Evil, Ren Narita, and Sonata defeating the War Dogs team of Dave Finley, Drilla, and Gabe Kidd. And pretty much same of the previous match, and pretty much all the matches on this tour like we talked about. You have War Dogs, coming in, full of fire, getting the advantage over the heels, and then the heels kind of come back, cut them off, and then War Dogs make a comeback, and then there's some kind of House of Torture shenanigans that lead to them getting the advantage and getting the win, and that's exactly what happened here with House of Torture defeating the War Dogs here.
How far out are we from the dog cage match?
It's Saturday.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that, in my opinion, it's just me, I feel like this dog pound cage match, because of its reputation, has this aura about it that it should be a blow off. And I have the fear that it won't be a blow off, but let's just say it is. There's so much they could have done in the lead up to this blow off already that they just haven't done beyond your standard typical regular Road 2 style matches. They could have done, a series of singles matches. They could have done elimination tag. They could have done, what's it called? Like a gauntlet style match. There's a lot of different things they could have even done hypothetically, like a New Japan version of Anarchy in the Arena, right? Mm-hmm. Something like that. They could have got tag titles involved. Don't the House of Torture hold the Never Six Men's?
Do they? I forget. I forget now. I think they're still.
I can't recall either, but I know at one point they did. Not too recently. Maybe they do now. I'm not sure. But it's like there's things they could have done to kind of up the stakes to build to this particular match that, haven't happened. I mean, the fact that we did get the Evil David Finlay singles match in the tournament, but that seems so non-definitive. I wish that there'd been other things that happened that built and necessitated this particular match on this card to have needed to have happened. They had many months to build this, and they just kind of didn't, honestly.
Yeah. So, Narita, Show, and Yujiro are the current Never Six-Man champion. So, yeah, that could have came into play. I don't know if they're going to continue to do this like war game style, but you could have had like a match where the captains, the team advantage. You could have done that. You could do some kind of weird singles matches with some kind of mixing matching. Do like Finley versus Show, do Narita versus Drilla. Like you could have done a lot of different singles matches in the build besides just kind of your standard multi-man tags. Again, it was very repetitive, and I get it. I know that it's they want every prefecture and every city to see what's going on, but I still feel like you could advance the story creatively without having to do every night a 10-man, 8-man tag with the same finish, and these guys cheating and winning here, Evil using the shillelagh to get the win over Finlay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that. Following that, we had an incredible tag team match with Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii defeating Hiromu and Naito in 19 minutes and 36 seconds.
Yeah, the standout match of the evening and of this week. I think we had high expectations when we saw that it was going to be Taichi and Ishii teaming together, which is sort of like a strange bedfellows situation. But those guys, they do have a lot of history with one another. They were even in a faction together many, many, many years ago when they first broke into New Japan from as being outsiders. I forget the name of that group, but they really showcased their talents here. And I think Hiromu took this match as an opportunity to kind of showcase what he is still capable of doing when he's driven and hungry, especially with the current exodus of Bushi and Naito right on the horizon. He kind of needs to figure out what his role is going to be going forward. And then you had Naito there, who is seemingly pretty motivated to work hard during these last few matches of his tenure with New Japan. He's definitely protected because he wasn't in the match too often. And, there's still a few snafus here and there, like there typically has been with him, but he's, I feel like Taichi honestly covered for a lot of that. And that was sort of like the story, like the heart and soul of the match. And, it's kind of an unheralded feud, the one between Taichi and Naito, but it's been going on for many years and kind of circles back to the first match, singles match they had with the Taka Taichi Mania. That's like almost 7-8 years ago now when Taichi first, graduated to heavyweight, and it looks like they're on the midst of closing out Naito's tenure here with Taichi sort of being that guy. And then we've seen matches with Hiromu and Ishii in the past. Most of them were pandemic era, but they were really fantastic. And, potentially seeing what those two guys could do to lock it back up in front of a crowd, that's pretty exciting stuff too. So yeah, this match really went above and beyond. I loved some of the double team moves that Taichi and Ishii came up with that I'd never seen before. And yeah, Taichi picking up the win was maybe unexpected, but I think the right call.
Yeah. Overall, it's a really great match, and like I mentioned, Hiromu was a standout. I love the interactions with him and Ishii. They had a big strike exchange battle, and both their chests just getting red. And of course, Ishii just a great seller and did a great job of making Hiromu really have to fight to chop him down. So I don't know if they're going to do another singles match with these guys, but I'm all in for that. That was great. And then, the Naito and Taichi stuff was great, very emotional, and the closing stretch between them was just great. Naito, hits the snowplow, and then goes for the Destino, but Taichi turned it into a Black Mephisto in midair, which was pretty cool. Hits a spin kick, and he hits the dangerous back suplex with the bridge for a great near fall. And then Hiromu breaks that up, and then Taichi hits a brainbuster, then the Black Mephisto, and gets the pin on Naito. And then post match is kind of embracing Naito there as Naito kind of lays on the ground, and then him and Ishii walk off, and then you have the whole crowd kind of chanting for Naito. He's just kind of laying in the middle of the mat, and then finally, Hiromu gets him up, and then the crowd starts chanting for Bushi, who was on commentary, and then he comes in, and they do their LIJ fists in the middle pose.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, really, really good matchup. I think this could easily be on tag team match of the year so far.
I think it's an easy, candidate to be listed so far for the, which might not seem like it's regular people, but like we're almost halfway there for our grading period.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. We had a question from Def Triangle 720. Do you think New Japan should just force Hiromu to be a full-on heavyweight moving forward? He's done everything in the junior division, and he has said repeatedly he doesn't want to move up. But at this point, he's more beneficial to go to that next level like Naito and Omega moving up.
I think we've advocated for him to go up to heavyweight for a while. I think we've advocated on the show to blur that line between heavyweight and junior. I think that there is, money to be made potentially. I don't know. It depends on your philosophy. People were very against it when Noah sort of, muddied those lines when they brought up Marufuji and Kenta many years ago, and that was sort of on the downside of their business. Other companies have gone with guys that were, either smaller in stature and height wise or frame wise, but New Japan has kind of always kept this line where if you're under a certain height or if you don't have a certain type of frame, you just can't really be considered a heavyweight. Or if you do try to make that jump, if you don't fit a particular type of mold, and unfortunately for Hiromu, he doesn't have the frame of a Kenny Omega or a Kota Ibushi or a Tetsuya Naito even though they're like almost the same. It's like Naito just barely passes. Hiromu's like, it's a height thing. So
he's kind of bigger than Ishii though.
Yeah, but Ishii carries himself like he walks. Like maybe if I don't know, man. Maybe if Hiromu pulled like a Dynamite Kid, Eddie Guerrero sort of thing and like bulked up with the muscle,
get on the
gas. But remember when Ray did that?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't advocate for that. Honestly, I do think that there are interesting things to do with Hiromu as a heavyweight. I also think Hiromu is at this point in time a shell of what he had been physically. I do think he's intelligent and charismatic enough to still work an appealing style. But I think, I do think his time with the juniors is probably done, but it didn't work out for Kushida when he was in the same predicament,
Yeah. I think that in the state the company's in, when you need stars, with your stars leaving and with the guys you have, you should take chances and try to push guys that are over. And Hiromu is a star. We've seen that. We've seen his strong ability in the junior division. And I think it's worth a try, even if you want to do more open weight stuff. Like, he can still do junior stuff, but also like he can pull Ospreay 2019, be in Super Juniors, be in G1, challenge for the Never title, challenge for junior title. Like, he can do both. And so I think, him being in the tag team division kind of dipped their toes in that direction. And so with Naito gone, I think it would be a good transition. Yeah, he does Super Juniors this year, and then he should want to do G1. And I think having him in there, especially with, we have no Naito, no Cobb, there's a lot of spots opening up in G1 this year. And obviously there are some other guys that will slide in there, but I think Hiromu's a guy you can definitely slide into one of those open slots and have some great matches.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that, all right? The closest case study we have of someone being in a similar position where like they are totally accomplished as a junior, but they don't fit the height and stature requirements to be considered a viable heavyweight, but they're like one of the top stars in the company and like everything like that. That's going to be like Liger. We saw what happened when Liger went to heavyweight. He had some compelling matches, but they never put the gas behind him. They put him in G1s. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what this booking committee would do with Hiromu, but do we believe that they are willing to go all the way with him as like a top guy? Because that's the real question with Liger. They were not. and he never was treated that way. And he eventually had to go back down to juniors and kind of, assume a quasi dad status with Hiromu. It's like, do you go from being top of the card with the juniors, or would you rather be very likely an upper to, mid to upper mid guy at heavyweight, unless they really get behind you or like something breaks with the crowd and the audience, similar to like what's happened with Goto recently. I mean, Goto got the title. I never thought that would happen. So anything's possible, but I'm not holding my breath to believe that they're going to use and push, Hiromu as a heavyweight, especially after he jobbed in the Dome in such convincing fashion to Naito.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's just kind of how Naito's body was holding up, if there could have been a more compelling match, but yeah, that does not, show good signs for what his heavyweight run could look like. But again, I think they should take a chance. He's over, he's popular, he sells merch, and maybe the emotion of Naito leaving could kind of, that momentum, maybe that can shift over to Hiromu, and people get fully, I think people are behind him, but fully kind of embrace him as a kind of the front man of that group, either being heavyweight and really kind of going for a run.
Mm-hmm.
So the main event of the show, we had the vacant IWGP Tag Team title match, and United Empire team of Callum Newman and Great Okan captured the titles, defeating Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi in 16 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah, I thought this match was okay. I did not like it as much as the two tag matches that were on the card that we kind of gave some praise to, the Shingo match and the Tai Chi match. But this was a solid enough main event. I don't know if I personally came out of this feeling like I was sold on the idea of Callum Newman being a viable challenger. I think that the things that we know he's good at, we saw on display. The things that we're not so sure about, I didn't see anything that like led me to believe that those questions would be answered here. And the things that we know are kind of like issues for him are still, present. That doesn't mean that the title match isn't going to be good, but I don't know if this was necessarily a strong showing to endear the fan base or sell tickets or that sort of thing. I thought that this was the type of match that sort of belonged on middle of the card, regular Road to and Corkin, and that was about it, Yeah,
especially after the LIJ Hontai tag match and then the LIJ, the Hontai too. Yeah, both LIJ Hontai tag matches were both really, really good, especially the Naito match. And so to follow that up with this tag match, it just didn't hit the same heights as those matches. And for the anti-Callum Newman crowd, this match, I don't know, I felt it kind of gave them some ammo because, I really didn't see, after this match, I wasn't really hyped up to see Newman and Goto. I still think they're going to have a great match. And I'm sure Goto is also, I think, smart enough to put together a match that will be compelling with Newman, but just based off of this kind of preview matchup here, I wasn't like, all right, I'm super excited to see Newman, get a shot and potentially upset Goto. We did have some questions.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, no. We had some questions here. MJ says, Okan was spitting bars backstage. One of his most impassioned promos attacking the old guys. The guy has 2 belts now, charisma to spare, and in my opinion, should be the leader of United Empire. After seeing the drama unfold with those guys, do you think a real frontman, leader, big boss, whatever, will emerge for UE?
Yeah, obviously we touched briefly on the kind of online turmoil that was ongoing between Jeff Cobb and TJP and that whole situation last week. I think Walker Stewart did a good job sort of alluding to that a little bit on commentary without peeling things back too much. But it is interesting because I think that it is a valuable brand. And New Japan's probably in a position where it's like, do they take a gamble and try to create something new that they hope might, sell? Or do they try and shore up one of their proven brands like United Empire? And you're right. It probably is a situation where Great-O-Khan could be like leadership material. But then for me as a fan, I feel like the one thing that would need to sort of be different is he needs to work at a higher level. There is a working level in this company, and I think he's capable of it. And he's a great character, great mouthpiece, has charisma for days. But he's very inconsistent. Sometimes he is awesome. Sometimes he's not. Very rarely do I ever feel like I'm watching one of the best workers in the world, though. And that's how you should feel when you watch these leaders.
Yeah, he is very hit or miss. And yeah, the faction leader should be a guy that could credibly challenge for world title and really be that front person for the group. And I know there was a lot of kind of rumors and reports on, what TJP was saying, other sources. And Joe Lanza did some audio today, and he was talking about, something he heard from the locker room and a lot of this kind of matches with what TJP was saying, where, the leadership was offered to other members first, and TJP took it after like 4 guys turned it down. And so it seems like they did offer O-Khan leadership, and apparently the kind of frame of mind was none of us should take the leadership spot so that could elevate all of us and not just one of us. And I just don't know how that plan was really going to work out in their favor, but I feel like, they had the opportunity to elevate somebody else in that spot and just didn't.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much I want to say about, I would agree with what you said there, that Joe Lanza pretty much said that what he heard lines up with a lot of what TJP says. I think that we've heard a few things that also do. One thing I will say, and I can't keep in mind this is with us, it's going to be second or third hand. But I mean, one of the things that I had heard was that one of the reasons that so many people turned down the position was the financials or lack of financials that would accompany the position, so that I think that may potentially also play a role in things as to what the inner workings were with that situation in general. But it's an interesting proposition. I feel like we've gotten this question a lot where people are like, who do you think should lead the group? And I have said, as I've been accused of in the past, I don't know. but it really is a situation where it's like, who on the roster right now could you potentially see leading a group like this that has the chops to do it, today?
I mean,
it's like maybe Takeshita.
Yeah, I mean, he would be great. But I'll see with the AEW and Don Callis family stuff. I don't know if that works.
There does seem to be a UE Don Callis family crossover pipeline, though.
That is true. Yeah, you could do something where to get to Ospreay, Don Callis buys United Empire and controls both the groups.
No, I don't want anything like that. I mean, maybe if that's how we get to, I think the Japanese fans would be like, "What the fuck?" the lead color guy from 5 years ago. Why is Kenny's manager leading the United Empire?
Yeah. As far as in the group, I think O-Khan, from a mic standpoint and charisma, I think he could lead the group that way. I mean, he's always kind of been the Japanese vocal front for the group, even when Ospreay was there. But yeah, like you mentioned, in ring, I don't know if he really cuts it for being a leader and being a guy who can credibly challenge for the world title time and time again. And everybody else in the group's kind of juniors. You have, Jake Watson Young, Akira are juniors, Templario, who's kind of, he's CMLL kind of in the group. So you don't really have many heavyweights left in the group now. So from within the group, I don't know what you can do there. I think they would need to bring somebody in, an outsider, or somebody call somebody up for an excursion or something to try to lead that group. Also, post match, we did have Taichi and Ishii coming out to challenge Newman and Okan. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but pretty excited about that.
Okan's double champ. I think that match sounds very good, and I hope we transition these titles to Taichi and Ishii quickly.
Rambone says, should Okan be pushed as a UE leader, or has he been relegated to a geek status for too long to be a credible faction leader? If not him, who should the faction disband, or is there another option out there that would work better? And we pretty much covered everything there. And like you said, it's like, do you risk disbanding and not having that brand that's kind of been established for 5 years now, or try something new? Yeah, it's kind of a risk reward. You don't know what to take there. And then Def Triangle 720 says, do you see Taichi and Ishii winning the tag gold? I think those two would be exactly what the heavy tag division needs.
I hope so. I don't know, but I would like to see that team win the titles. I would like them to push specifically. I'd like them to give a push to Taichi. I think some of the comments that he's made backstage really showcases like, hey, I've been waiting for a long fucking time. Like, give me my shot.
Yeah. And I mean, if we kind of look at what the booking would have been if Cobb didn't leave, so obviously the Bishamon match would have been Bishamon versus Cobb and Newman, and I would imagine Cobb and Newman would have won that to kind of give Cobb momentum to challenge Goto. And so if you still had Taichi and Ishii versus Hiromu and Naito, then you would be setting up Taichi and Ishii versus Cobb and Newman, which Cobb was leaving anyway. So I kind of feel like the booking would have led to Taichi and Ishii beating Cobb and Newman at some point in the next month or so to win the title. So if they stick with that kind of booking, I would think that, yeah, maybe Taichi and Ishii are going to beat Newman and Okan come Dominion or whenever the title match happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it for Wrestling Redzone in Hiroshima. Then today we had a Road 2 show. I'm just going to kind of run through the results because pretty much a lot of this stuff was similar to the Red Zone and previews for what's coming up on the rest of the tour. So we had Yasuda and Taguchi defeating Daiki Nagai and Murashima. We had Francisco Akira and Great Okan defeating ELP and Jado, so a preview for the TV title match there. Then we had Taichi, Taka, Yuya, Umino, and Ishii defeating Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji. So, LIJ losing on the way out here with Naito and Bushi. And then we had the War Dogs defeating the Hell of Torture by DQ, which led to was kind of the Heyman special there with Finlay and Evil running out. That led to a 10-man tag, which once again, Hell of Torture got the win via shenanigans. Then it's our main event. We had Tanahashi and Yano, Wato, Bolton, and Yo defeating the TMDK team of Harley Jackson, Vegeta, Eagles, Oiwa, and Sabre. And then the main event was Bishamon and Desperado defeating Callum Newman, Jacob Austin Young, and Templario. So again, double preview there for the heavyweight and junior heavyweight matches. And again, with that preview, there was nothing there that really sparked anything to really get any excitement behind Goto and Newman.
Someone got hit with the chair one of these shows. Or, I'm sorry, guitar.
Oh, for the How to Torture stuff, yeah. Drilla. He's been...
And Drilla got hit with a guitar, but that was like one of the only... Yeah, I thought the first show, the Red Zone, was like a fine lower tier B show sort of thing. But I thought the wrestling was good and inoffensive and kind of flowed. And I felt like the second show was very similar in that respect. But ultimately, like the only real, two, I guess, recommendations I can make would be the LIJ Hantai tag team matches from the first night. And everything else was honestly pretty skippable. In fact, the Road to Dontaku show from, was it yesterday?
today.
Or today. I don't know, like literally almost nothing of substance really happened. It was a highly skippable show, not just from, I mean, it was an enjoyable show, but there wasn't much that you needed to see to get us to where we're going with Dontaku.
Yeah, and that show wasn't actually originally supposed to air. Kind of like in the middle of the week, they were like, oh, by the way, we're going to randomly decide to air this show. So, again, they probably didn't have anything really planned for it to, and then they just did it.
We didn't have Walker either because he was calling the Stardom show.
Yeah, so yeah, we had Japanese commentary. So yeah, which I did. It was hilarious during the Tanahashi match. Like Milano popped so big just for like the Tanahashi senton off the middle rope. Like he was like screaming his head off. I'm like, it's just a tense senton. But yeah, he loved that. So that was Road to Wrestling Dontaku from today, and then tomorrow, April 29th. We have Wrestling Hizen No Kuni from the Saga Arena. We will have Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Masatora Yasuda in a singles match there. Then we'll have Hiroshima, Bolton, and Yano taking on Hartley Jackson, Oiwa, and Sabre of TMDK. We'll have LIJ, Ibushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji taking on Taichi, Taka, Yuya, Umino, and Ishii. Then we'll have the House of Torture, Evil, Narita, Sonata, Sho, and Kanemaru taking on the War Dogs team of Connors, Finley, Drilla, Gabe, and Ishimori. And then we'll have Bishamon and Deguchi taking on Callum Newman, Akira, and Jacob Austin Young. And then we have 3 big title matches here to close the show off. We'll have the World TV title match, Okan defending against El Phantasmo. Semi-main event, the IWGP Junior Tag Team titles on the line. Ichiban Sweet Boys will defend against Master Wato and Yo. And then the main event will be for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. El Desperado will defend against Templario. So do you think, are we seeing any new champions come tomorrow?
I'd be highly shocked if Templario picked up the win here, but I am looking forward to the match. I think he's a great talent. I think Desperado does well with Mexican luchadors, and I think that's going to be a really good one to check out. Phantasmo has still never beaten Great Okan, apparently. So that's one where it's like they just put the tag titles on Great Okan. Is now the time where they take the title, the television title off of him and put it back on ELP. But ELP did have a quasi-lengthy run this year already with the belt, and Okan seemed to just recently obtain that. So I don't know. That's a tough one as well. And then, when you have the junior title, tag team titles, you sort of have to start thinking about Best of the Super Juniors. I also think since we only have the unnamed CMLL talent for that show, right?
Correct. I'm assuming come Dontaku this weekend, they will announce that person, announce Bushi's replacement, and announce the blocks.
Might happen here with how junior centric this show is.
That's true, yeah.
And I mean, let's just say Templario were to win, he would need to be that CMLL talent.
Yeah, you think so.
So there's always that chance. But Wato and Yo, normally I usually say like certain people, if they have the tag team titles, it means they're not going to do well in the tournament. But we've seen a lot of situations where there have been double champions in the junior division, and if anybody kind of needed the win to kind of give them some juice going into the tournament, it might be Wato and Yo. Just saying, if you really wanted to reinvigorate the division, like not division, but those two guys in particular, and give them some juice, now might be the time to put the junior titles on Wato and Yo. I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen, but if I were to take a guess and say which titles I think are most likely to switch, that'd be it.
Yeah, I think that might be a good move, because then you can free up Vegeta and Eagles to potentially have a big run in the tournament and even go to the finals or maybe even win it. So that might be a good move there. And then, you can have Wato and Yo.
But I feel like it makes Wato and Yo more viable going into the tournament too.
Yeah, give some credibility.
I have more belief in their ability to go deep in the tournament with those belts than with if they lose here. If they lose here, it's hard for me to envision them doing super well in the tournament, honestly.
Yeah, and I feel like since Wato's come back, they haven't really done a whole ton with him, so it might be good to kind of give him something and try to get him heated up. I mean, he was a former winner of Super Juniors. It's kind of hard to believe sometimes, but yeah, he had that great finals with Teton, and they kind of really didn't do much of him after that, and then he got hurt.
Because he got hurt.
Yeah. So hopefully, they can kind of get him back going and maybe winning the titles instead of the move here, do that. Despre and Templario should be great, and the tag match should be great, and then Okan ELP, I would think Okan would retain, because if not, what was the point of even having him take the belt off of ELP if you're just gonna flip it back? So
they do that sometimes.
I know. I feel like that's like the Gato. I'm kind of bored booking, so I'm just gonna flip the belt back and forth kind of thing sometimes. So that should be a pretty good show with those last 3 matches tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, April 30th, we'll have another Road 2 show. This will be the go-home show for Wrestling Dontaku in the Grand Messi Kumamoto. We'll have Hiroshima and Daiki Nagai facing off. Wato, Bolton Oleg, and Yo. We're taking on Hartley Jackson, Kosei Vegeta, and Robbie Eagles. We'll have Tanahashi Yano taking on Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. Then we'll have Sonata, Sho, and Kanemaru taking on Connors, Drilla, and Taiji Shimori. And then Dick Togo, Evil, and Ren Narita will take on the War Dogs of Finley, Gabe, and Gato. Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji will take on Taichi, Taka, Yuya, Umino, and Ishii. And then the main event will be Bishamon teaming up with ELP and Taguchi to take on Newman, Akira, Okan, and Jacob Austin Young of the United Empire. So kind of the last shot here for previews to build any hype for Wrestling Dontaku. Which that leads us to those 2 shows that'll be happening Saturday and Sunday. So first, Saturday, May 3rd. Both of these shows happening in the Fukuoka Convention Center. We'll open up again with Katsuya Murashima and Daiki Nagai. And then Wato, Bolton, Iano, and Yo taking on Hartley Jackson, Vegeta, Eagles, and Oiwa. Bushi, Hiromu, Naito, and Tsuji taking on Taichi, Taka, Yuya, and Ishii. Bishamon will team with Taguchi to take on Callum Newman, Great Okan, and Jacob Austin Young. ELP and Jado will take on the Don Callis family team of Konosuke Takeshita and Rocky Romero. So that, let's see, the mystery opponent, mystery partner there is our good friend Rocky Romero. And then coming into the business end of this card, we'll have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Zack Sabre Jr., Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino, and the main event will be the Dog Pound Cage match. House of Torture, Evil, Ren Narita, Sho, Sonata, and Kanemaru taking on Clark Connors, David Finlay, Drilla Maloney, Gabe Kidd, and Taiji Shimori of the War Dogs.
Yeah, it's probably the final time Tanahashi and Zack wrestle, and considering how much Tanahashi elevated Zack early on in his New Japan run and all throughout the years, it's a pretty meaningful one. Shingo Shota, that's one that's sort of has got some Charlotte Flair versus
Stratton,
some Stratton energy to it. Shingo might be laying him in. We'll see. And then, unbelievably, I feel like there's bound to be more violence in the Shingo Shota match than there is in the 10-man steel cage War Games match. I hope this War Games is my favorite gimmick. And
yeah, I think did Walker say on commentary that they weren't doing the timed, like there was all 10 were going to start in the cage? I think I heard him say that.
That would suck. That would suck. Yeah, they might. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this. As crazy, like I liked the feud in the very, very beginning, and it's kind of petered out. And now we've gotten here, and I feel like, you know, if maybe the match will deliver, but I feel like the build is sometimes just as important as the setup to the actual match can be very important. And I don't think they've done a great job here for that.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to the first one, like United Empire and War Dogs, like that was built perfectly. There was so much hate and heat there. It was a blood feud, and then you got to the match, and Hanare's head's getting split open, and these guys are doing crazy bumps and all the plunder.
And with that one, they didn't do all the stuff that I advocated for with like the long series of matches. Although they did some of it.
Yeah, there was a Catch 2-2 versus Clark and Drilla for the junior tag title stuff.
They had those singles matches in Cork and Hall and stuff. So even on a short timetable, in a very condensed amount of time, they did a better job building. I remember the match at New Year's Dash, where it was like, oh shit, like they're gonna tear down the building. We gotta put them in a cage. Like they haven't done anything like that with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of just said the standard walk and brawl kind of stuff, but it hasn't been like that full like heated hate. Like, oh my gosh, like yeah, we need a cage to contain these guys. It's kind of been your standard, yeah, War Dogs walk and brawl, how to torture, cheating kind of stuff. So,
and I don't love the cage they use. It's reminiscent somewhat of the CZW ROH cage of death that they used in 06.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have the right work to make that work. We saw what happened when they did the match with who was that? That was Show and Desperado last year, and that sucked. I don't think it's the type of cage that really endears itself well to your classic NWA style of match. Where you can use it as a weapon, but it's right there. When you have that space, you have to find ways to use the space creatively, which they did brilliantly in the first match. But I don't know if these guys got the chops to do that in a compelling way and in a violent way that the match is deserving to have, because that's what it's intended to be, is a violent blow off. So we'll see. I don't know if these guys are about that life.
Yeah, with last year's version, with all that space, you had a lot of flyers in there. You had Ospreay, you had Akira, you had TJP. So having the space kind of worked in the favor because those guys can still do some of their big high spots. And, another key thing from last year's story, too, was the whole thing they did with Akira, with getting stabbed with a screwdriver and kind of being afraid of those guys and having to kind of overcome his fear to face those guys. So there's a lot of great story elements from last year that hasn't really they started this year with kind of the Finley evil stuff and Sonata turning. Like, I feel like they kind of started really good, and then it's really kind of been downhill over the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, hopefully these guys can pull out something good, because I really loved the dog pound cage match last year. So hopefully they can do something here. So we'll see what happens there. I expect the War Dogs to get the win, since How the Torturers pretty much had the full advantage going into all these preview tags. So yeah, I expect the War Dogs to win there. And then Umino and Shingo, that's going to be interesting to see who wins, considering Umino just beat Shingo in the New Japan Cup. So is this going to be 50 booking, or are they going to try and really rehab Umino and have him get another win over Shingo? And then Tanahashi and Zack. I expect Zack to get the win and even up their record. I think they're 7-6. So if Zack wins, they'll end career-wise 7-7 and be even. So that's probably what's gonna go down there. And then that takes us to night 2, which will be on Sunday, May 4th from the Fukuoka Convention Center. This one will open up with the guys from Kyushu Show Pro Wrestling. We'll have Hitomura Sakai and Jet Li taking on Katsuya Murashima and Ryusuke Taguchi. Then we have Batten blah, 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 and Mentai Kid from Kyushu Pro Wrestling. Don't know how to say his name. Taking on Gato and Taiji Shimori. Then we'll have Wato and Yoshihashi taking on Great Okan and Jacob Austin Young. Then we'll have the Stardom Showcase match as Maika, Hazuki, and Kaguma will take on Yuna, Mizumori, Azumi, and Starlight Kid. Then we'll have ELP and Bolton Oleg taking on Konosuke Takeshita and Rocky Romero. Tanahashi and Yano will be teaming up with Ryota Chikakuzan, Tajiri, and Yo to take on TMDK, Harley Jackson, Kosei Vegeta, Robbie Eagles, Ryo Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. And then the final matchup here for Naito and Bushi will be Bushi, Hiromu Shingo, and Naito taking on Taichi, Taka, Umino, and Ishii. And then the two big matches, we'll have the global title match. Tsuji will defend against Yuya Uemura. And then the main event, Hiroki Goto will defend against the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman.
You remember on January 4th, we had Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah.
And then on January 5th, we had the crossover show, Wrestle Dynasty.
Yeah.
That's what this shit is.
With the Kyushu Pro guys.
And Stardom.
Yeah.
And AEW is represented on the show, too. We got all the big hitters. Kyushu Pro, Wonder Ring, Stardom,
Well,
All Elite Wrestling.
Where's the ROH at, though?
I'm sure we got some ROH in here. Some Eagles works ROH sometimes.
Ishii, former ROH TV champion.
Yeah. He challenged for the world title.
Yeah, that's
We're
right. Yeah.
Got a lot of representation on this one. A lot.
Yeah.
We got just like in just like on January 5th, we got a high flyer that maybe isn't necessarily deserving of the title, but they're getting the shot anyways. Same shit. Very similar. Why isn't Mayu on the show?
So we'll get to that in the news, but Mayu Iwatani is leaving Stardom.
Well, Micah got hurt, so I don't think she's in this match either.
Yeah, I mean, they announced the match today, so I did see later on that she got hurt, so she'll probably end up being replaced.
So we're not going to get her. Maybe they could replace her with
Money.
Tam Nakano.
Also retiring.
Oh, what? What's going on over there? That's crazy.
And no Tekla either. She's leaving.
You ruined it. My dog is distracting me. I was going to say, let's get Tekla in there. She likes.
Yeah, she's out of there too. So yeah, I don't know who else they can bring in for that.
These 8 women are going to show up and just fuck everybody else up for the whole entire night. Like, oh man. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. The main event on the Road to show from today was 8 minutes long.
Yeah,
it's like one of the shortest main events that I can recall from a New Japan match.
Yeah, it was pretty short, especially for a main eventer. But yeah, they got in and got out. And again, kind of proves the point of like they're not really taking the time to build heat with Newman and Goto. So yeah, again, that was like you mentioned, like all their matches could kind of be middle of the card, kind of Road to stuff. Normally a main event, even with it being multi-man, usually goes like 15, 20 minutes. So don't know what's going on there.
I like it.
So the title matches here, I think it's pretty clear Goto is going to retain and defeat Newman. But when it comes to the global title match, I do think there's a chance that Uemura could win the title. What are you thinking? Are you thinking Tsuji retains, or is Heat Storm going to finally capture a title here?
It wouldn't be a bad time to put the title on Uemura. It would feel a little bit premature from the Tsuji side to take the title off him. He's had just a few matches as the champion, and they haven't necessarily like blown me away. But it feels like Uemura can't continue to eat a lot of losses either. This feels somewhat reminiscent of the Gabe Kidd Tsuji match from February, where it was like, what do we do here? We're like backed into a corner, which in one, on the one side of things, it's exciting because it's hard to anticipate what the outcome is actually going to be, and it probably raises the level of investment people have into the match itself, but they're also kind of booked into a corner where it's like you don't want anybody to lose, and someone has to. And this is the biggest stakes match that these two guys have ever had with one another. I thought they've done some tremendous media this past week with some of the little video segment previews and interviews that these guys have done, and advocating that they should really be the real main event here. And I don't know, maybe there's some truth to that. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But my gut is saying that Tsuji will probably retain, but I'm gonna go with the off chance that it's Uemura this time.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of history, a lot of emotion with this match. All these guys come up with the dojo together, and then the match last year where Uemura breaks his arm on the splash in the match.
Uemura still won that match, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. And then that led to the whole emotional thing of Tsuji using the deadbolt in that match with Finlay. So a lot of emotion, a lot of history between these guys. And, with you, I kind of agree with Tsuji's reign. I mean, he had the great Gabe Kidd match, but then they followed it up with the horrible Evil match. And then there really hasn't been any other defenses. So, I mean, I would have liked to seen him have, a lengthy reign full of great matches. But we're at a point now where I kind of think, I don't know, I want Tsuji to win G1 this year. And so
what? Well, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you go back to it, but let me just throw this nugget out there. Maybe Tsuji has to win because Naito's gone.
That's true. But it seems like LIJ has been kind of losing with Bushi and Naito leaving. So could this be them losing again? And then you kind of do the hard reset after this show with whatever direction you're going to go with that group. Or do you have Tsuji kind of be the one prevalent guy on this night? Maybe you have, Naito's probably going to lose that multi-man matchup against Hantai, so maybe, Tsuji's the one LIJ guy that wins that night, and then, he kind of fully leads the group forward. But like I was saying, I would, kind of my fantasy booking would be to have Uemura win that allows Tsuji to win G1, and then you do Tsuji Goto Wrestle Kingdom main event, relive their New Japan Cup final, have Tsuji beat Goto, win the title. That's kind of the trajectory I would like to see happen if Tsuji were to lose the title.
I was putting a lot of faith in their vision for Tsuji, but it's not a bad way to go. I'm a little torn now because of the LIJ situation, but I'm gonna stick with my pick, which is Uemura, which probably means Tsuji's gonna win.
Yeah. I don't know what to pick because it's tough because I can see either guy winning, and I don't know. I feel like Yuya kind of needs it more right now because he seems to just lose all of his big matches.
Yeah, I also don't know if I believe in him as a credible champion because Tsuji had an opportunity to carry that belt as a credible champion, and so far, outside of the one major significant title defense with Kid, I guess he did defend it. Who did he beat at Wrestle Dynasty? Was it Brody King?
Jack Perry.
Oh yeah. That match should have been better than it ended up being too, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just didn't feel like he got the opportunity to shine as champion, not just in terms of defense, but in terms of positioning, being positioned as the number 2 title holder in the company. It didn't feel that way. Whereas when Finlay was champion, it did. Finlay felt like the number 2 guy in the company.
And they lined up with great defenses. He defended against Goto and Taichi. He had all these great opponents that they set him up with that feud, with that title run, and they didn't really do that with Tsuji.
So I don't know if I'm necessarily bought in. I think that, Uemura can win the title and that's fine. But then am I bought in on the concept that he will then get the promotional push behind him that's necessary to, move things along in terms of his progression? I don't know, because I don't think, if anybody was as ready as anybody, Tsuji's up there, and I don't feel like they put the rocket behind him, as much as that might seem counterintuitive. They put the number 2 belt on him, but they didn't give him the platform to really represent for whatever reason. So I don't know, maybe they kicked the tires with Uemura, or maybe this is the big heartbreak for Uemura to kind of give him some motivation. But then again, like you mentioned, if you really think Tsuji's going to main event Tokyo Dome, they got to get that belt off of him before the G1, which is rapidly approaching.
Yeah, there's still Dominion, which they could have Tsuji drop the belt there going in G1, so there's still some time, but yeah, they have to get it off of him pretty quickly to kind of get him ready for that.
I'm just not a big fan of a guy losing the title the month before the G1 and then turning around and winning it all. I guess you can do that. I feel like if you're going to do it, now's the better time. Get some space between these things happening, Yeah. Like, imagine if, like last year, Zach was the TV champion and he dropped it in, when did he, let's see, he won that title. He won the TV title back from Matt Riddle.
Right. In
and
April.
When did he drop it? Was it Dontaku?
Yeah, it had to be Dontaku because, he won it back from Riddle in April in Chicago. So, yeah, I think it was.
Who did he lose it to? Was it Cobb? I don't even remember who beat him for that belt.
I think it was Cobb, yeah.
Right. And I don't think it happened at Dominion. I think it happened at Dontaku, which, was a better way to kind of like get that belt quickly onto him, off of him, and, let there be some space before, July.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Kind of build some momentum back up for him. Yeah, it was Cobb, because in Dominion last year was Cobb versus Ishii.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was some time for Zach to build momentum back up.
Right. Like, and if Cobb had beaten him in June, that would have kind of fucked his G1.
Yeah. So if Tsuji's going to win G1, he should probably dropping the belt here would probably make the more sense. So, and that's what I want to happen. So I'm gonna go with you, getting the win there. And I'm wondering if anything is going to come from the Takeshita stuff here. So he's back-to-back nights teaming with Rocky against ELP, and our partner Takeshita is never champion. I wonder. Oh, that's right. ELP is challenging Takeshita at Resurgence for the never title. So then that really makes the ELP Okan match weird, because I don't think you would want ELP losing that match if he's getting ready to challenge Takeshita.
He's gonna lose because it's America and it doesn't matter.
Oh man,
for real.
That sucks. I don't know. Maybe you have.
What's the worst situation? He becomes TV champ, and then loses to the never champ, or is it better for him to just eat the 2 losses and move on and make the champions look stronger?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want.
Sorry, ELP.
I wouldn't want a challenger going into a title match after just losing another title match, but
that's America. It's not the same kayfabe. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they go to the title draw again. Or maybe you have these guys screw ELP. Rocky's it's a heel turn now. Maybe he comes out there and screws ELP and helps Okan win. I don't know. I feel like you need to protect Phantasmo a little bit going into this never title match.
I kind of feel like Okada should be in the Don Callis family.
Why?
Because Mind you, I don't really watch AEW these days too much, but like the last time I was watching, he was still just with the Young Bucks saying bitch and doing, cutesy kawaii shit. He needs a vocal mouthpiece, and who could be a better vocal mouthpiece for him in that company than Don Callis, given all the history with them in New Japan and the Omega Okada series and everything, like that would be a great, let's have him drop Takeshita. I'm serious. He should drop Takeshita. Takeshita is like poised to be an incredible babyface.
Mm-hmm.
And, be the head guy, be the top manager for Okada.
Yeah, that could have been interesting. You mentioned going into All In, having Don back Okada against Kenny, kind of the reverse of what it was before. So, yeah, that could have been a cool move there. But I mean, the Don Callis family is pretty stacked right now. I'm liking the lineup. You have Takeshita.
They don't gotta have Takeshita.
They don't have to.
They don't have to do anything. They could do exactly what I say.
Yeah, well, that faction's pretty stacked right now. But yeah, we got to see Takeshita back in Japan, building up that Never title match. The Stardom match should be fun. Again, I feel like this weekend could have benefited from both these cards being combined into one. Second night has a ton of multi-man stuff, but overall, it should be some great matches between both cards.
I heard that there was an upcoming Taka Taichi Mania again that was announced at one of these shows recently. And I think there's a good chance that what we're leading to is a Naito Taichi match at Taka Taichi again.
That makes sense if that's
it's
happening.
It's not confirmed, but I think that's what we're going towards. And I think there's fans who think that too.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense, especially since they didn't change any of the matches here, which I thought they might possibly could have done, kind of like they did with Okada. They changed some of his last matches on the way out. But yeah, nothing changed here for Naito. Just going to be standard 8-man tag. I mean, there's still a few days left. They could still change it, but as of now, it's just going to be a 8-man tag. So yeah, so that's going to be Wrestling Dontaku for the weekend. And then the only thing that I had here in the news, which I mentioned earlier, Mayu Iwatani is leaving Stardom. So she confirmed this morning in a press conference that she'd be leaving Stardom immediately and is no longer a member of the roster. Her final match was this weekend at Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom, losing the IWGP Women's title to Shuri. So after that crazy long title reign, finally dropping the belt to Shuri and is leaving the territory. So that's all I had in the news for now. Then I'm going to jump into some questions, some we had from last week and some new questions that we got from this week. So first from Stone Cold Bob Saget. He just says, Tenzan looks like he's at death's door. That's my question. Yeah, I mean, Tenzan has been looking pretty rough for pretty much, I think, in the existence of this show. So nothing new there. Next question from Grass Puzzleheaded 932. Who should be the one to dethrone Despy? Good question. I don't know. I feel like you should use somebody that you're trying to get over. I feel like if you're looking at domestic talent, Kosei Fujita might be a guy that you want to kind of get that big win over Desperado to fully elevate him. I think there's a great story with Francisco Akira and him trying to beat Despy. I would totally be down for Akira to win Super Juniors this year, and then you do another Akira Despy match at Dominion and finally have Akira beat Despy. I think that could be a cool moment there. Trying to think who else could potentially beat Despy, but that would probably be my two top picks there.
I know I stepped away when you were kind of talking over the news there. One thing I did want to point out, so with Mayu. I saw a tweet from friend of the show, Lyric, and she talked about the length of that title run and the strength of it. And while I definitely, I think there's some criticisms to be had about how the IWGP Women's title has been handled from a promotional standpoint, and how it's been platformed and positioned amongst the two companies. Mayu, when you look at the list of people she defended that belt against she held it for 2 years and 5 days. And then you look at the number of title defenses and the quality of the matches, like, it is pretty much undeniable. She's got probably the strongest title reign in quote unquote, kayfabe, probably the strongest IWGP title reign since Okada in his legendary reign.
Yeah, and she surpassed him his days as a champion.
Did she?
Yeah.
Yeah, he I think I'd have to go look, but I'd probably argue that the quality of his matches was higher overall. But I did a quick calculation, and she averaged out, just according to Cage Match, which is it's just a tool, but she averaged around a little over 4 stars every single match for the 10 title defenses plus the title win that she had, which is that's for 11 matches straight in a title reign, that, in Japan, that's pretty fucking high.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to throw that out there.
Next question here from MJ. It says, looking purely from a business strategy perspective, how should New Japan book foreign talent moving forward? Given the financial constraints, are there any changes you'd make?
It's really tough because the volatility in the market, it's hard to know if some of the things we speculated about last week, talking to a friend of the show, Fraser, where it's maybe the yen strengthens, maybe things equal out a little bit, and Japan becomes a more profitable place for foreign talent to work. But then at the same time, there's stuff going on in the world where it's not just in the market space of pro wrestling, but just with, the world's economy. I wish I was a stronger market analyst, but I think it's difficult to depend as heavily on foreign talent as New Japan has in the past and as they are now, because we don't know if these talents are going to be around for the long haul. Given the financial situation with New Japan, we've seen people leave, and that's pretty normal. But when you know that there are two behemoths out there in WWE and AEW, and they're hungry for talent and they have pockets that you can't possibly compete with, it's difficult to envision that you're going to go all in on foreign talents if you don't expect them to stick around for the long haul. How can you ensure, and how can you as a company shore up the finances to make sure that they are paid appropriately to justify keeping them around, So it's a difficult proposition, honestly.
Yeah, I think their best bet is finding guys like Bolton Oleg that kind of go and live there and kind of grow up in the culture, and kind of, New Japan's kind of one of their big goals. And so finding guys kind of like that can live in Japan, so also there's less expenses of them traveling back and forth between, the US or wherever to Japan, is helpful.
Well, then I think what you're really advocating for to some extent there, Jeremy, is looking in non-traditional places and markets to attract these talents. Inoki in the 80s, he kind of opened the door to the Soviets, bringing them in, and Akira Maeda sort of worked with those guys and worked with the Eastern European bloc, and brought in a lot of talents to what became rings. And that was sort of the through line to, that Sambo stylist, fighters that found their way into the UFC and into Pride and kind of still dominate the UFC to these, to this very day. Like a lot of that was sort of kickstarted by Inoki, and that was built out of necessity because the partnership with WWF crashed and the NWA died, and they needed to start looking at other places. And that's why, he partnered with Memphis in the late 80s, and he partnered with AWA towards their dying days. And then he went and looked for the Soviets. And like for modern day Japan, they might want to maybe consider opening the door a little bit more to like Australia wrestlers, New Zealand, that sort of thing. I know they've already got some. Maybe look at the UK again.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great play, because then I feel like a lot of Western wrestlers that kind of come up in the wrestling business, I feel like New Japan's just kind of a stepping stone for them to get the, that big AEW or WWE contract. So if you find guys like Bolton where maybe that wasn't quite on their radar at first, and you kind of, you bring them into it and kind of train them up into it, I feel like there might be a better shot at establishing foreigners that way.
Yeah, and I like what you said about Bolton Oleg, because how many other top potential, Greco-Roman or international, wrestling athletes are out there that could potentially ply their trade in New Japan as opposed to going the fighting route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be viable. They might also want to look at Mexico. Look at the success that they've had with, bringing Doki back. I know he's domestic, but, there's a lot of like Mexican talent that exists that's unaffiliated with CMLL or AAA. And maybe there could potentially be something there, even if it was like in partnership or conjunction with AAA, like some sort of, look at Okada, and like his first, formal training and wrestling experience was all in Mexico with Toriumon. So, maybe there's something to develop there.
Yeah, and also, we were supposed to get a Dragon League contracted run. That never happened. So why not try to go that route again and find, a Mexican star that you could contract or kind of create your own. Like you mentioned, it doesn't have to be a CMLL guy, but find somebody, an independent Mexican star that you could sign and push.
As I was saying it, I do realize like CMLL likes to control this stuff, and maybe that would ruffle too many feathers, but maybe there's something that, the same way that, I don't know, maybe there's something creatively they could do. Or like you mentioned, Dragon Lee, I think his contract's coming up. Why not just sign him back?
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great. Instead of him wrestling 3 minutes on Twitter. Next set of questions here from Dark Soldier. He says, although the event will turn out fine, is the Dontaku cards lacking? Just doesn't appear very strong.
Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier. I think that these shows could benefit from being put in a big venue and having everything structured so that the top matches are all on the same night, as opposed to splitting it two ways. And I can't speak to the novelty of having the Kyosho Pro guys on that second night. I assume that there's some sort of attraction to that. Maybe they're going to be like, they're local to that city in that area, and it's going to be, something that is meaningful to the local market. But I just personally, as a fan, would rather them load everything up and just have one Dontaku.
Yeah, and they're also, technically they're kind of splitting it three ways, because with Hizen No Kuni, you have 3 title matches on that. Like, you could have put some of those title matches on 2 of these cards to help even make these cards stronger. His next question, he says, Rocky Romero has turned heel, but he'll never be a heel to you guys, right?
Everybody's a heel and a face when it comes to pro wrestling. Shades of gray, brother.
I'm wondering, with this heel turn, will he be able to come on the 400th episode in a couple months?
I wonder how he have that conversation without
exposing the business.
I wouldn't say exposing the business. I'm just saying, like, I feel like there's going to be, I feel like, you know, I don't want to, not trying to have a conversation that's antagonistic or anything at all by any means, but I also find it difficult to have that conversation without talking about the elephant in the room, which is the conflict of interest between, you know, holding executive positions in New Japan and AEW, and, you know, how willing he would or wouldn't be willing to talk about those things. You know, that's kind of my dilemma, but I think that for anyone worth their salt, if they're talking to Rocky and they're in the New Japan space, they sort of have to ask that question. Mm-hmm. I also sort of think that the question about like the amount of talent that have gone to New Japan or to AEW over the past few years through this kind of partnership pipeline has to also be brought up. So I'm like, how can you not have that conversation without talking about those things?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he would be willing to answer those stuff. So, you know, we'll see. And he last question here says, "It's the reason why Rock wasn't at the Mania main event is because he wanted to stand in solidarity with his new home in New Japan to fight the tyranny of those underdogs, WWE."
I did listen to JCast today, and they pretty much said that, I don't know, I don't want to speak for them, but they seem to indicate that the idea of a Rock Tanahashi match is probably not the case. So I don't know. They gave some other, like, what do they call it? Deli
pastrami sandwiches or whatever.
Yeah, they gave some like little kind of like tidbits of code, and my brain has been numb all day, so I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. All I needed to hear was Tanahashi's not wrestling The Rock. So that's about the full extent of that for me.
Yeah, I didn't really expect that to happen, so.
I did.
Def Trial 720 says, in your opinions, what did the golden era of New Japan have that you think may be missing from the current New Japan outside of star power and first-time bouts?
You know, it's a tough question because to me, the real golden era of New Japan is in the 1980s. I mean, realistically, it probably is in terms of like visibility and popularity, even if they like made more money and had more critical acclaim in the 2010s. The 80s are like the real, I mean, look at the business that they did in the 80s and the 90s. Like, they were running multiple dome shows across the country in the 90s.
And then they have like a big TV deal then too.
You know, I'm not the super expert on that. I think their TV deal was more in the 80s and then got canceled in terms of prime time. But yeah, they did have better TV deals in the 90s. Like, it's sort of like, you know, back in similar to like wrestling, like in the 90s with North America. It's like everybody knew who The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin are. Nobody knows who Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are. Yeah. Even though they're like, quote unquote, they're making more money and it's the most, quote unquote, you know, visible they've ever been. It's not their real golden age. Like, WWF's real golden age was like either the 80s with Hogan or it was the 90s with the Attitude Era. I think it's somewhat similar to the New Japan situation, but I guess what was this question about 2010s?
What's missing from current New Japan that happened in the golden era outside of star power and first time bouts?
I don't know. They had star power. Like, how can you ask that question without and then take that part of it away? They had a collection. They were in a very rare position to have a collection of the very best talents in the entire world, all simultaneously hitting their peaks at the very, very same time.
Yeah, you had Tanahashi, Naito, Ibushi, Omega, Ishii, Jay White, Ospreay. like
Okada.
Yeah, Okada, like Kenny Omega, like AJ Styles, and kind of the beginning part of that. Like, there's so many incredibly talented guys.
Nakamura.
Yeah.
Suzuki.
Yeah.
It's a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Like the talent level is the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's other things you could talk about, but that is the biggest one. Like, they had a collection of talent that I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
Yeah, like that was a perfect stars aligning moment for them. And yeah,
and then Will came, and then Shingo came. And
right. Like, it was just kind of like, it was getting more and more. Then they signed Dragon Lee, and then all these people keep coming. It's like, this is incredible. They had Moxley coming in, and like
Hiromu.
Yeah.
At his peak.
Yeah, I mean, you had Kushida at his peak.
It was a special time.
Yeah. And so right now, I mean, you have a lot of really great wrestlers on the roster right now, but none of the young guys have fully hit their peak yet. Some guys, I think they're starting to get there, but
I think Shota has.
So his peak is being geek.
We might have surpassed it already, actually.
He's past the peak. I also asked, of the young guys on the roster, who do you think has truly been elevated since they've returned?
I mean, they all have to varying degrees, but the only two that the company has really put, I think the three that you could say that they put strong promotional behind would be Gabe Kidd, Yota Tsuji, and Shota Umino. And everybody else has had promotional pushes and presentation changes, but not to the level of those guys. And I would even say, I think Tsuji and Umino have been pushed much higher and harder than Gabe Kidd up to this point too.
Yeah, I feel like Gabe's push kind of really started coming this year, whereas Tsuji, I mean, first night out, he's world title match, main eventing Dominion, and also Umino had a bunch of Ospreay matches and a bunch of opportunities. So that's the answer there. He says, next, do you think New Japan doesn't utilize their finances well enough?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know what their finances look like. And
yeah, we're not in those budget meetings. I don't know what their allotments are. And also, kind of like Fraser was telling us last week, Bushi Road, New Japan's just a small part of the pie of what they're doing. And so, I don't know what the Bushi Road overall allotment is and kind of what factors decide how much money they're going to pour in New Japan or not. Let's see. Next question. To me, it seems like they would rather waste money on bringing guys like the Good Brothers, Riddles, Nemeth, etc. to work in the company instead of securing talent in Japan, because that was part of that question.
Well, I mean, what talent in Japan are you going to secure?
Yeah, it's not a ton of freelancers that I would say they need to break the bank to bring in.
I mean, there are, but it's very precarious. They've got this United Japan thing going now, and partnerships, even if they're quasi partnerships, they've got quasi working relationships with most of the Japanese companies out there, and it's culturally frowned upon for these guys to jump ship, and it's also culturally frowned upon for the companies to poach from one another. So it's like, as much as you might want to see Yuma Anzai or Ozawa or whoever the fuck,
Kenta Miyahara,
yeah, it's just so rare, and yes, we've seen, I mean, the three big situations, there's a few situations you could point to over the years where guys have jumped. But, the most recent ones probably be like Tajiri, Sonata, and
you mean Taiji?
What did I say?
Tajiri.
Sorry. Yeah, Taiji Ishimori, Shingo, and Sonata, and those were all kind of under precarious circumstances, let's say.
Yeah, especially, I think Ishimori was like the biggest one where he's like, yeah, I'm going to America. I'm going to TNA, does like one match, and then comes right back and signs with New Japan.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, they could. That's why they have dojo systems, and that's why they put their money and their their resources into developing their own talent as opposed to signing outside talent. It's just the way that it is over there. I'm not saying we'll never see anybody from other companies come over, but it's rare. So it's like. Plus, when it comes to signing ex-WWE guys, like WWE is the biggest company in the world. And, I don't think they always have the strongest grasp on that company or what worked, but they know WWE as a brand. And so they're kind of whores for ex-WWE talent sometimes.
Yeah. This question, would it be the best time for Hiromu to challenge Takeshita for the Never title? It'd be a good story for Hiromu to want to compete in the G1 as Never champion.
I would love it.
The match should be incredible.
A cool match.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. So you think it wouldn't be wise to take the title from Goto before G1?
Unless you have something really compelling up your sleeve that I'm not seeing right now, then no, it wouldn't be a good idea to take the belt off him. I feel like the time for that has come and passed. The David Finlay match was when you should have done that. And now that they haven't done that, you kind of need to go with the hand that you're dealt, which isn't a bad hand at all, but like, Goto's going to have a strong G1. He's going to be a Final Four guy in the G1, and he's probably going to headline the Dome unless there's something on the horizon I don't know about. I don't see, like, he's probably headlining the Dome.
Yeah, I don't really see anybody that's really lined up to potentially beat him pre G1. Like, I don't know who his Dominion opponent's going to be. Like, before Naito was leaving, I thought it would have been Naito as his Dominion opponent, and I would have thought that he would have beaten Naito still at that point. So yeah, I don't even know who could beat him, like Dominion.
Well, I would say I don't even know who his Forbidden Door opponent's going to be, but like, is New Japan even part of that fucking show?
I mean, their logo's still on it.
The logo's on there, but I don't know if that means shit. Like, one thing, Jeremy, I don't know if you've thought about this, but like, this was pointed out to me by I don't know if I should say who, but someone within our Social Suplex pointed out to me recently that since the January 5th thing, we talked about it last week with Fraser, like, who has come over from AEW or gone from New Japan to AEW that didn't already have their own personal dealings with those two companies?
Nick Wayne's going to be in Super Juniors.
He's the first one. He's like the first one in half a year.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that it for sure means anything, but if we've talked about like the state of the partnership, and it's been kind of quiet since those comments were made, but then you look, it's like nobody's come over one way or the other. The only guy that like goes over there is like Ishii, and he can kind of do whatever the fuck he wants, it seems like.
Yeah, and Takeshita's been going back and forth. Kevin Knight will be Super Juniors also.
Right. He's got dual contracts.
Yeah.
Seems very much that he's got the clause in his contract as well. Like, Nick Wayne will be like the first contracted AEW talent to like come over from the exchange in half a year.
Yeah. Interesting. Doc says, with Japan now fully engrossed in the trade war, how many more wrestlers, foreign and domestic, are more likely to be seeking employment in the U.S.? Do you believe the financial crisis forces Japan to lose out on what could be can't-miss talents?
I think New Japan doesn't have the deep enough pockets to get a lot of those can't-miss talents, because we've seen so many times over the past, 5 years now where someone becomes free agent, they're going one of two places, and it's not Japan.
Yeah.
Unless they've got every like bridge burned and there's nowhere else to go, you know? So I'm not, I mean, yes, there is something to what you said there, but I mean, trade war or no, I don't think New Japan has very much been in the position to pick up these free agents, not on a permanent basis anyways.
Yeah, they can't compete with that TV money that both WWE and AEW are getting. They'll never be able to match those deals.
It was like a cool time where like when Strong was going and they were touring and they'd get guys that were like fresh off of the releases and you'd think like, oh, they're going to be part of this. And it was like, no, it was like a per date appearance. Then they'd go sign with AEW or WWE or whatever. And it was like, oh, they never came to Japan. They worked, 2 dates. Cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, think of all like the cool like talent that was on Strong, Swerve, Brody King, like all these like cool like top indie guys that came through that brand that never got to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Next question here, Miley for Life says, who would you push in the best of Super Juniors to create new stars?
My brain is like so fried. I'm trying to even think of who is in the tournament to begin with. I mean, my knee jerk reaction without even knowing who's in the tournament, maybe Robbie Eagles. It might be the time to like pull the trigger on him. Maybe Fujita.
Yeah, I would say Robbie, Fujita. I think Akira. I think there's a story there of him winning and facing Despy again.
That would be cool. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, outside of that, I mean,
no TJP.
No, Mr. Perkins is not going to be coming to Japan for that.
He should be in it. I don't know the status, but I mean, I was like, when he's in the tournaments, Gail Lindemann in there.
Maybe
what the fuck's he doing?
Maybe he could be Bushi's replacement.
The tannest man there ever was.
Next question says, I feel like these stories aren't hitting like they used to, especially with so many factions falling apart. Seriously, one of the most prominent stories at Wrestle Kingdom was actually Shota trying to find a gimmick. Am I missing something great, or does something need to change?
You gotta watch the backstage comments, my beau. I don't know why I said my beau. I don't know what the fuck that means.
I think you're trying to say my boy.
I was gonna say my boy, but then I started to say bro, and it got fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there have been a lot of good stories this year, and also, yeah, those do get enhanced with the backstage promos. I mean, I don't know what he's comparing to. I mean, if he's comparing again to like the quote unquote golden era, like I don't think that's like a story problem. That's a star power problem. So yeah,
I think it's like there's good stories, but maybe not the characters that you are personally invested into to carry those stories,
Yeah, I mean, look at Goto. It's in the last 2 years, like his whole arc and story, like from the New Japan Cup finals to the whole Finley stuff to winning the title, like that's one of the best stories that's happened in the last couple of years.
There are a lot of good stories, like admittedly in New Japan, but you do have to kind of be, I mean, this is a company where they don't, I mean, you probably know, I don't even know who asked the question, but they probably know, but not everything happens between the ropes. A lot of it does. And, there's certainly segments and things like that in ring, but a lot of it is on social media. A lot of it is in the media, the interviews and media that they put out on NJPW 72 and stuff like that. And on NJPW World. And then a lot of it is the backstage comments. You have to kind of, I mean, you don't have to, but you will be enriched and rewarded as a viewer if you actually watch those.
Yeah.
And it's, what's nice with that is like, if you're a seasoned New Japan viewer, you can kind of figure out after a while when you're watching a Road to show, like what you need to watch, what you probably don't need to watch or pay as much close attention to, that sort of thing. it kind of becomes like that with the backstage comments. Like, I know that you pull it up and it's like, you know, you're watching how long do you think like a regular Road to is? Like almost 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours?
Yeah, 2.5 to 3 hours, yeah.
And then you pull up the backstage comments and you're like, fuck, it's 45 minutes. You know, it's a Wrestle Kingdom every time now. But you can kind of figure out, I mean, the way I watch the comments, me personally, is like I turn on the captions. I turn it to 2x speed personally, because to me, the words are what matter. Mm-hmm. More so, like the information is what I care about. Unless I see something really impassioned where I'm like, oh shit, let me slow, you know. But I can also kind of tell, like when Hanma comes out, I'm not going to need to listen to most of what he has to say. I'm not going to have to listen to what the Young Lions, the Tenzans, you know. And then there's certain guys that are like in certain feuds where it's like, I might listen to ELP a lot of the time, but like when he's in this Okan feud, I don't know if I definitely when it was like him and Hikuleo, I like just fast forward through that shit. They don't have anything to say. So you can kind of suss out and figure out, like, you know, what backstage comments after a while. You can kind of figure out what might have some juice to it. But then like someone like Nagata, I kind of always listen to Nagata because like he's always thoughtful, even if he's not mixed up in anything like important, you know?
Yeah.
Or Tanahashi, same thing.
Yeah, but then also a lot of the written interviews that they do on the English site are very good, and there's a lot of insights from those as well. Next question's here from Few-Shoulder2780. Who would you like to see in NJPW? They could be heavy, juniors, or teams. I know they're building new stars, but it wouldn't hurt to sign new wrestlers.
I got West Coast Wrecking Crew like just waiting in the wings. They need to just fucking pull the trigger and bring them over. Like, why not? There
was a, speaking of written interviews, there was a written interview with them. I think it was today or yesterday. Kind of building them up for their strong title match and talking about, you know, wanting to come to Japan and that the IWGP division needs them. So maybe this year will be the year for those guys.
I think a lot of that strong talent is talent that it's like, why wouldn't you invested in them? Why wouldn't you just bring them over? You know, if you're in the market to spend.
Yeah, like I don't need Baron Corbin. I don't need any, you know, top dollar, any, you know, guys like that. Like, yeah, bring over Bad Dude Tito, bring over Mysterioso, bring over Adrian Quest.
Here's my thing with Baron Corbin. I liked Baron Corbin in NXT, the first run. No one else really did.
I liked him in NXT when he was kind of doing the whole like squash gimmick and was kind of a lone wolf kind of thing.
Yeah, people thought he sucked. I thought he was pretty good. And I think that his actual fighting background lends a lot of credibility that was never really put on display in WWE. I'm not advocating that he should come over now, but he's a guy where, like, let's say he works in MLW or a TNA or something like that and does well, then maybe as a fan, I'd be more inclined to see a GCW reinvigorated lone wolf or whatever the fuck his name is now, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't want us to be the guinea pigs. I want him to, I want him to go to Mexico first or go to Rev Pro or whatever the fuck he's going to do.
Right. Like get hot somewhere else and then bring that momentum over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's so many strong guys.
I don't think they can afford him though.
Yeah. That's probably, they probably, I don't know. I mean, some of the lower card strong guys, I feel like maybe you could slide it, but yeah, but I don't know what they'd be asking for, but.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Like at the very least, like the fact that like they haven't brought over Filthy Tom Lawler and they haven't brought over West Coast Wrecking Crew is fucking weird.
Yeah. Fred Rosser.
I didn't list Fred Ross. just like a Jeff Cobb tweet. I left a particular name out.
Damn. That man's been, you know, Shinny Han through and through, leading the dojo in LA.
It's not a dojo, it's an academy. It's different.
No days off, man. Let's see the next question. Do you think NJPW has more belts than they need? To me, the TV and global could be combined, and the 6-man seem forgettable.
Well, no, we're not getting rid of the 6-mans, so thank you.
Yeah, 6-man titles are like so underrated and misbooked in multiple promotions. Like, it's such a great title to have that companies don't always utilize the best.
But yeah, I think they've got too many titles. I think all wrestling companies, for the most part, have too many titles. You know, I grew up in a time where, like, to me, like, WWF had the world title, the intercontinental, and the tag titles. And I knew that they'd had other titles, but they got rid of that shit.
Yeah.
And then they brought in a Lunder Blaze with the women's title, and that almost didn't even feel real. It was kind of fake. So it's like, we really only got 3 titles. That's, you know. And then, you know, on WCW, that felt to me like they had too many titles, because they had the World Tag Team titles, the US Tag Team titles, the World title, the United States title, the TV title. It's like, damn, like WWF's only got 3. These people got, you know. And then if you watched, like, before the Turner purchase, they had, like, all the NWA belts, like the National Heritage and the Western States and
International,
you know, United all this shit. So to me, I was always like, damn, WCW is not as good. They got too many belts. WWF, that's it. You got 2 men's titles and a tag team belt. That's where it's fucking at, you know. And then as the years went on, and it was like, then they added a light heavyweight, European
hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brand split.
It was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
so
keep 6-man titles. I don't necessarily think we need a TV title at this point.
We've talked about it a lot, and I'm not going to go into the full depth of it again, but yeah, I at this point I somewhat agree, unless they re-envision what the focus and utilization of those titles should be. Because, like, to me personally, this is just how I feel. I think that the kayfabe of titles don't always make a lot of sense unless there's a clear, defined vision behind what that belt means.
Right. There should be a slotting or a reasoning that sets that belt apart from all the other belts.
Like, if you really think about it, like the never open weight, the global, and the IWGP World title all kind of fulfill the same thing, you know? Like, there's not a clear delineation other than the fact that we know one is, you know, it's 1, 2, 3. But in an ideal world, it would be like they would talk about the global the way that other successful companies have talked about their secondary title. Like, it's the stepping stone to, you know, for promotion. And, you know, the never title really should be truly an open weight belt where it fulfills this void where, you know, they can cross the boundaries of weight classes, stuff like that. I don't think that New Japan at this point in time does a good job differentiating what the focus and the purpose of these titles really is. I mean, what the global title, what the fuck does that even really mean? Other than the fact that it's a white strap and it looks good. Like,
yeah, it was
global means world title.
It was their way to bring back the IC without calling it IC.
Yeah. But global means, like, world. It's like a second world title.
Yeah. And then you have all the strong titles and get rid of all those. So we've talked about that over and over again. So yeah, there's a lot you can kind of trim down. Doc says, Jeff Cobb believes in a flat earth. TJP believes The Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars movie. Who really has a worse opinion?
He said TJP thinks that Phantom Menace is the best or the worst.
The best.
Oh, I really love Phantom Menace. I'm not going to lie.
Dude, as a kid, I thought Phantom Menace was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and I've rewatched it, and I don't hate it the way other people do. Like, people hate Phantom Menace. I don't get it. I really hate it.
You had Darth Maul.
It's not even just that. I think it's a good movie. I think it's paced well. I think it expands the universe in a good way. I think the acting's good. Like, there's just so much I like about it. I get people don't like it, but to me, can compared to what they've done with what Disney has done with Star Wars since then, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's not nearly as egregious as what Disney's done. I do think Attack of the Clones sucks, though.
Yeah, that wasn't.
I don't like Attack of the Clones other than, like, you know, seeing Yoda get busy with a lightsaber, which fucking rules.
Yeah, I feel like Phantom Menace was the best out of that, of the 1, 2, 3 that came out.
Oh no, I like Revenge of the Sith. That's the one that's in theaters right now. It's like breaking records again. I love that movie. You are the chosen one.
So I think it's clear that if anybody believes in a flat Earth, that is the worst opinion out of those two.
Why?
Rambone says, is there anyone else on the roster you think is likely to depart in the near future, or on the backside of that for now? Do you think the powers that be at NJPW are looking at the massive turnover in the last couple of years with an already clear plan of who they will push at the next top stars, or that's still up in the air?
What's the second part of this question?
So essentially he's saying, does New Japan have a plan for all these people that are leaving, or is it kind of up in the air to kind of stop that?
I don't know how you stop it. They don't have the financial means to stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can't go back and rewind the clock and undo history, you know, to get us to, we have to make do with where we're at. But
and I think he's also kind of pointing out, like, do they have plans on who they're going to push, kind of based on that too?
I think that there is, how do I say this? There is the belief amongst fans out there that there is a possibility that the exoduses that we have seen take place this year are not done, and there may be more coming, without getting into any sort of like specifics. But I will say this, Jeremy, and I'm ready to kind of like unpack this almost at this point, but if we see any more like top stars leave and go to AEW, and maybe other people are already past this point, but I'm at the point where I'm like, this is predatory, you know?
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, it's just business. And I understand Tony, you know, wants to acquire talent, and these talents want to do the best that they can do for their families and earning and viability and everything like that. But I think we're far past the point where we as New Japan fans are supposed to pretend that them going to AEW is somehow benefiting New Japan, and that maybe in the future we might be able to see these guys come back and interact and blah, blah, blah. Like, that just really kind of hasn't happened. And when it has, it's mostly talents that have their own. Realistically, this is not a fair and a balanced partnership any longer with the sheer amount of talent that has left. And it's because there's been unique access given to AEW to have access to this talent, to showcase them on their show, to work with them, familiarize their audience, and then they sign them away. which is, it's brilliant for Tony, but it's terrible for New Japan. And, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at a certain point 6. Now we're getting to the point where we're about to start seeing like double digits potentially. And it's not good. And I think that we are at the point where if anybody else goes, then we need to, especially since right now we are in this very transitionary phase. We can't say the things about the guys that might get signed now that we could say about an Okada or an Osprey or Kenny, where we're like, well, they did everything that there was to do,
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that anymore. It's like, yeah, they're just now on the rise and you're going to fucking sign them away. Like, fuck, dude. Like, which again, it's business. Those guys have free will to go work where they want to work. They have the free will to sign whoever they want. But then at that point, New Japan and AEW should just stop working together. At that point, they really should end the partnership, because it didn't amount to what the fans envisioned that it could be in terms of producing, other than the first or second Forbidden Door shows. It just really didn't produce what I think fans wanted to see out of this kind of style partnership. But what it did, it became a talent pipeline to boost AEW and make it easy for them to poach the talent. And I think that we're about to see more of that happen in the coming year.
Yeah. And as far as like picking who you push, I think it's going to be hard because, I never thought that Okada was going to leave. I never thought Naito was going to leave. Like, the guys who you thought would be there forever are all leaving. It's like, so who do you get behind? Who do you trust? Who do you think is going to stick around? Yeah, I think it's probably very difficult for them to figure out who's actually going to stay around, who's going to go.
Like, I don't want it to sound entirely like I'm just trying to paint it as like New Japan's the victims and AEW is the the evil one in this, because ultimately, again, it is just business. But it is predatory practices based on unique access that's given them by their owners. And if it continues, and I think it is going to continue, they need to end this partnership. It just needs to stop, because I don't think that the value of of a Forbidden Door show to help keep things afloat is worth the value that they're losing by seeing all their top stars signed away to what is essentially, even though a business partner, it's also a competitor.
Yeah, but even if they stop working together, I don't think that's going to stop people from going to AEW either. So, feel that kind of tough situation either way.
No, it won't. But they have to stop. Like, that's the point. Yeah, but there's got to be you can't just sit there and be bitches. You can't just sit there and be like, yes, we will work with you and let you take all of our talent and just grit our teeth and accept it. At a certain point, you have to pull the plug, because the partnership is no longer a partnership. You can't be in a partnership when you're poaching your talent, all of him. You can't, because then at that point, it is just a facade. It's not an actual partnership at all.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, I'm sure there's several young guys there that Tony Khan would love to sign up. Next question here from Def Triangle 720.
All I'm saying is Tekla's gone.
Yeah, she's probably U.S. bound. I did see rumors that Mayu's probably U.S. bound also as well. So we'll see what happens with them. Def Triangle 720 says, do you think New Japan just should accelerate some stories now? I think it's taking a slow approach. It's dead with how quick the wrestling business has been this year.
No, I think that there's a happy medium to be had. I think that you can definitely, try to fast track things, but we've seen them try to fast track things with Shota Umino with disastrous results recently. It's not always just go, go, go. It's about, finding the right timing. do things. And yeah, sometimes they are, too cautious, but they've had a lot of success for a lot of years. And I think that there's happy medium when it comes to philosophy of booking and timing of things.
Yeah, I think it's hard to have a fast rule of like how long a certain push go the storyline. I think long-term storytelling is great. I do think they could hit the gas on some guys a little bit sooner that they do. So yeah, I think the timing is definitely a kind of a tricky thing to kind of figure out. Next, it says, who do you hope is in the forefront for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view this year? Outside of Shingo, CSJ, and Tanahashi, they haven't really given a proper showcase of the new gen guys on the show.
I don't care. I'm serious. I'm so serious about it. I don't care about that show. I would love to care about it, but they've given me every reason in the world to not care about it. And just from the promotional material, it doesn't seem like they're going to be promoting hardly anybody from.
Josh, you're freezing up pretty bad right now. Still there?
I'm here now.
Gotcha. You were saying that they weren't really promoting New Japan guys.
Yeah. They had the two little figures of Zack and Tanahashi on the poster, and that was pretty much it. Like, unless you count Takeshita or, other guys that are kind of like Mercedes, but I don't have faith in what they will plan to do with that show. It doesn't feel like anymore that it's really an actual cross-branded show.
Yeah, I think the more they do it, we've kind of seen that. Yeah, the last one was Swerve and Ospreay was the main event, and so clearly it's not been as strong as a co-promotional show. It still ends up being a great wrestling show. So from a wrestling fan perspective, I'm probably going to enjoy the show because they're going to put on a great card. From the New Japan's perspective, I don't know what they're going to do. I think obviously with it being in the UK, Zack versus Will would be a great thing to do again. I know some people were complaining about that running again, but I think it's always great when those guys wrestle, and I think it would be like a great story for Zack and Will to wrestle on that show. Also, you can use Shingo in a good spot. I think there's a ton of the new gen guys that could be given a shot, but I don't know if they actually will be. But actually, it might be a dangerous thing to give some of the new gen guys a spotlight on those shows.
Yeah, that's the two things that I would be concerned about when it comes to that show is how are they going to slot the New Japan talent? How are they going to use them? The booking, that's concerning. And then is it a tryout? Are these matches tryouts to go to AEW at this point? Is that what we're realistically aiming for? That's what it feels like, honestly.
Yeah. A Gabe Kenny rematch.
I'm not
cool.
trying to be down. Oh, go ahead.
No, so that Gabe Kenny rematch could be cool. And if Gabe can get the win back.
I doubt they would do that. It would be cool. It would be great to see Kenny Omega lose to him, but I think that the only way that they could have got there is what I had proposed at the beginning of the year was Gabe getting the first win and Kenny, wanting to get the win back later. I don't think it would make sense to do it that way unless if Gabe were to wrestle Kenny and beat Kenny, then, hasta la vista to Gabe in New Japan. That's what it would be.
Yeah. This next question: with the whole TJP and Cobb business in the forefront last week, do you think New Japan will do something about the resurgence match coming up with TJP in the mix?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I'm sure at this point it's going to probably keep the match as is, and I'm sure that TJP and Templario probably weren't going to beat West Coast Wrecking Crew anyway, so.
You don't believe in Templario?
He also asked, of the current crop of talent outside of Shota, who do you think could really benefit from a new presentation?
Watto.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I feel like they made a good call of, getting rid of the blue hair, going back to more of his natural hair color. But I feel like they had the perfect opportunity for a full hard reset from the injury. They should have dropped the whole Master Watto name. They could have a whole new gear, like new everything. But at least they changed the hair. That was a good start. But yeah, he could have used a good reset.
I think almost all the young guys could use refreshes to some degree, but I think it's more likely you'll see them adjust their characters and kind of develop it as time goes on. But I mean, I don't know. Let me give you an example. Switchblade Jay White, love him or hate him, he was a fully formed character as soon as he showed up. The only guy that I see as being fully formed for the most part when he came back was Tsuji. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has work to do in terms of character development. That includes, maybe the only, the other one too, who I think has done a good job developing their character to a point to where like they're pretty established. It would be like Fujita.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done a great job. I think he kind of knows who he is and what his character is. But I feel like, Uemura and Oiwa, Narita, those guys are still kind of tweaking their looks and figuring stuff out.
I mean, well, Narita kind of knows who he is, but I don't know if that's who Narita wants to be or should be. But yeah, I guess he's fully formed too. But if this is him being fully formed, it kind of sucks. Especially since, like, I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of those guys, they're still, and even like with Oiwa, like he's made a lot of changes to his look recently. So I feel like a lot of those guys are still trying to figure it out and find what their final form is going to be. And then last question here from Reddit user Fegal Soup. For Young Boy, how did you build up your history of NJPW throughout your years of following the product? Is there pieces of media or literature you'd recommend? I know Charlton has a book on the main events of the Tokyo Dome, but as someone who would like to learn more of the company besides that and the Showbuckle videos, there's not much out there for me to learn from.
What's probably a really good thing to do, I know it's not easy to navigate, but if you can go onto Wikipedia with the Japanese Wikipedia, I myself have trouble finding the correct, I'm not tech savvy, but I've found that the Japanese Wikipedia pages are much, much more detailed and have a lot more in-depth information across the board when it comes to Japanese wrestling. For how I built up mine, I don't know. I watched a lot of wrestling. I went to a lot of forums over the years, some places that are pretty snarky. I don't know if everyone that's listening would love to go to these places, but Pro Wrestling Only, Death Valley Driver Video Review, Wrestling Classics boards. Wrestling Classics boards is like the historian site where Stevie Ohei and all those guys hang out, and that's pretty in depth. But it's a lot of reading, honestly. I mean, I haven't watched all of New Japan's catalog. I've watched a lot of it. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that's on the on World, especially the back catalogs, that stuff's there. There's also the wrestling, the Internet Archive that used to be the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of stuff on there. You can find a lot of wrestling on shady Russian sites and Billy, BK, Daily Motion, stuff like that. But yeah, it's mostly reading, and I would recommend. I mean, if you're just wanting to learn about New Japan, probably read about the history of New Japan. Chris Charlton's book, the Lion's Pride book, is probably the best starting point for you. But like me, I don't know. I'm probably autistic. I'm not 100% sure that I am, but my wife thinks I probably am. and I can get obsessive about stuff. So I don't know. It is weird, like how much I know about wrestling.
But I feel like you just have like, I don't know, a really appreciation for history, because even not just New Japan, like when it comes to like obviously 80s and like the territory wrestling, I feel like you have a very strong knowledge of all that stuff.
Yeah, but like I also like it's very unofficial. Like I'm not like a historian the way that like other like Dave, like you hear Dave tell a story, it's gonna be like pretty much verbatim what happened. When you hear me do it, it's gonna be like the drunk history version of things, So yeah. But yeah, I mean, there is resources out there. I think if you're wanting to learn about a Japanese wrestling company, Japanese Wikipedia is probably a really good resource. Like just in general, you'd be surprised what's on there. Very in depth.
Nice. All right. Well, that is it for
Per Resu Spirits too. I think that it's a defunct website, but it used to have a lot of the reviews and histories and stuff like that. I think that's still out there.
Yeah. And then as far as like footage too, there's some sites out there that might have like DVDs of like old stuff.
Oh yeah. There's tons of footage that's out there. I forget the IVP, I think is like they're a good one. You can buy like if you have DVDs or Blu-rays, that sort of thing. Yeah. I know another place you could go, but I won't say it on there.
Yeah, slide in the DMs for that one. So that's it.
I don't want to say it because it's promoting other people's shit where they're gonna get paid for it, and I want to get paid.
We should make them do like a promo code.
I don't think that would jive.
So yeah, that's it for the questions. Did you want to do anything for recommended match of the week?
No, I'm not feeling great. I need to get out of here.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up. So next week we'll be back to review Wrestling Dontaku. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. Join our Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can also email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Issue Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All things elite with Floyd and Austin, Imps, WWE Adventure with the Implications Matthew Mayer, Wrestling Article Slings, Tone Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Itchy bun.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.